Hey everyone, you are watching the D6 Podcast, and our mission is to empower women to effortlessly slay life through real and relatable discussions on career navigation, self-care, self-growth, and everything in between. I'm Dany.
And this is Neesh.
And you are tuning into a very special episode. Neesh, tell the people why we are here today.
Yes. Well, welcome back, everyone. And I am so excited to be here. What brought us back together is really simply a why not? We were having a conversation and we kind of missed it. We missed y'all and we thought, let's do a special edition episode. So that's really it. No big story behind it. And here we are today, excited to give you some updates and connect with you all once again.
I love it. Yeah, I feel like we had such a great loyal following. So hopefully you'll tune in and just kind of see what we're up to. And hopefully we can still continue to inspire you in this special edition episode.
Exactly. Yeah. It was something that was the birth child of both of our passions merging together. And so I'm excited to bring that back to the table. And for anyone who's an OG, you might recall, and if you're not an OG and this is your first time listening, welcome. We structured out our podcast with different segments. And to kick it off, we typically have a conversation starter. So we are bringing that back. And then Fix Your Life, led by Dany. And then we would tie it up with a nice bow with either a tweet of the week, inspiration. This week, we're going to do it inspiration. And I will share that with you at the end. And so to pass it off to Dany, who's going to kick off our conversation starter, we thought, what better topic than to talk about where have y'all been? What's been up? It's been 3 years, and we'd love to share an update with you all. And so, Dany, where have you been? Tell us a bit more.
It's funny when you said 3 years, I'm like, no, she's definitely getting it wrong. It's only been 2 years, but no, it really has been 3, which is wild. We wrapped up
Does not feel like that.
Summer of 2019. So 3 years for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that at all. I
love it. Where have I been? What a loaded question. So I guess I can start by what is still the same. I'm still in downtown Toronto. I'm still in my same condo for now. I'm still very passionate about the 3 things I was back then, which is like music, travel, food. Those are always going to be my things, especially travel. And especially now that the world is opening up and people can visit places again. Travel still really is like my main source of joy, I would say. I still love a good travel deal. I'm actually very proud of this. I'm going to share this publicly. I went to Italy last month for $178 round trip flight.
What is that? YY deals or something else?
Next departure.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Amazing.
Like it was the best thing ever. And yeah, those things still just bring me so much joy because like when you think of the price of like gas and fuel and just everything these days, going to whole Italy in Rome for $170
for less than $200.
Wild. So yeah, those are still the things that, you know, make me really happy. And I guess I'll talk about the things that have changed for me. So during the time that we were, you know, doing our podcast regularly, I was definitely very single. We had Toronto Dating Chronicles and we had some stories and it was rough. But, you know, in early pandemic, I got booed up and now I've been dating my partner we've been dating for around 2.5 years now, which is also wild when you think of like the timing, but yeah, boot up now. So still a damsel because damsel is young, unmarried woman, but yes, now in a relationship. And I'll move on to my career. And I structured that purposely starting with life because if you remember in our first episode of the D6 podcast back in the day, I had beef with people who like started by, you know, introducing themselves and immediately going into like what they did for work because like work does not define us. We are more than our work. So now that I've moved on to life and the passion, right? Now that I've gone past that, I'll talk about my career. So I'm still in the same field, still in marketing, but I changed jobs and I changed jobs to my dream company, which I love for me because I remember I was applying to this company multiple times when we were shooting back or when we were recording back in the day. And like, rejected, declined. And like, it just never worked out for me. But eventually through like some networking, I got in. I've been there for about a year and a half now, which yeah, I'm really happy about. So that's full-time job. And then I guess my next update is just like personal brand. I'm really proud of where like I've taken my personal brand over the past few years. I remember back when we were on the D6 podcast back in the day, I was like not on Instagram, and I was very afraid to get back on Instagram just because like I had a bad experience, and I recently like had a breakup, and I just wanted to like fall off the face of the earth for many years, which I did. And also I had what I called like obsessive comparison disorder. Like I felt like I was always comparing myself to people, or I just felt like social media in general was a very toxic experience for me. But eventually I learned to be back on it. I learned to curate my feed and choose with intention who I follow. So it's just not toxic, and like not all like celebrity gossip, but more people who inspire me, and more, you know, people who bring out like a better side of me. So yeah, since then, I've been building my community on Instagram, which I love. I've been able to start like brand partnerships and as well, and make some like money off Instagram, which is also incredible.
Yes.
And yeah, it's honestly been really good. Like I'm really proud that like I've got the courage to like be myself and like show it to the world without like hesitation, or without really like thinking or caring about like what people think of me, for the most part anyway. But yeah, I'm just really, really proud of that. And I guess one last thing, money content. When we were doing our podcast back in the day, I remember I used to really love doing segments on money.
Yeah.
And I remember people really enjoy them as well. And I've always been so passionate about money. So I thought that that would be just the D6 podcast was just such a great opportunity for me to like share that passion and like, you know, structure segments around it. But then during like early pandemic, I started really leaning into money content and started learning how to invest, and just like really like upping my skills in the financial game. And now like I feel like I've become like a go-to for a lot of people in the finance space. I've done like a ton of media interviews, and like I'm kind of seen as like an expert in the space now, which is like shocking because I'm still not great at math, never have been, but I'm really proud of like the journey. So in a nutshell, that's where I am. That's what I've been up to over the past 3 years.
I think you shared so much great, like just so much great updates, that before I go on to me, I do want to ask you some questions here in
Of course.
terms of if you, or even some tips that you could share to anyone who's listening. You mentioned overcoming maybe a blocker that you had with social media based on an experience. What could you say really gave you that courage, if you could put something towards that moment where you just realized, hey, like I'm just going to lean into it? And then two, your brand partnerships and really building in the finance community, that courage. You really spoke on courage a lot. Is there any defining moments that you would share for inspiration for anyone who is missing that courage in their life and wanting to take that next step, or doesn't realize that they should?
Yeah, I don't know that there was any like individual defining moment, but I think I just started letting go of people's expectations of me, and kind of just like living my best life for me. Obviously, like I wouldn't say I'm 100% there yet. Sometimes I am very mindful of like, you know, what people think of like my content, and I'm like, oh my God, hope I didn't offend anyone, or oh, I hope this didn't like cross the line or something. But for the most part, I'm really just like leaning into being my whole self, bringing my whole self to the table at all times, whether that be at my full-time job, whether that be how I show up on the internet. It's really, you're always going to get the same Dany. And like, I know a lot of people from like my company and my coworkers, they follow me. So like, I just keep it 100 at all times now. Like, I am who I am. You get what you get. And just like accepting that, I think has really like helped me get that courage and overcome the fear of, I guess, judgment. And then, yeah, like I said, with just like making sure that my social media experience isn't toxic, being very, very mindful with who I follow. And like the second someone makes me feel insecure or judged, or there's like celebrity gossip or just like toxic stuff, I'm like, unfollow immediately. Like, I don't want it on my feed. I don't want it ruining my vibe, none of that. So
protecting
yeah,
your peace.
exactly, protecting my peace and just like curating my experience.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. All right. Okay. Well, and I know we'll get more a bit later because I have an idea of what Fix Your Life is. So we'll talk even a bit more. I'm sure this will cross there. But as for me and what I've been up to, yeah, the pandemic was impactful for many people, if not everyone, in some way. And for me, that was a time for me to chill out and slow down. I was so busy and just completing task after task. I had no time to think. And so the pandemic did that for quite a few people. And I was one of those people. And previously on the podcast, I had shared having my approach of how I attacked my goals, which was I didn't have an annual vision board. I had more of my life where I see it now and making sure that anything that I was committing major time to fed into those goals. And so 2020 was a big year for me in the sense that I accomplished 3 out of those goals. And I'm really excited about that. And to update you a bit on what that was, what I previously showed on the Damsel, I think I showed on the Damsel, I don't know. Anyways, being financial freedom was huge for me and having that. And as of August 2020, I paid my last student loan and I was so excited because I literally owed no one a thing, like no one a thing, like even down to my phone bill. I'm on a bring your own phone plan. So when I tell you, I just felt so free that I could then proceed to my next goal, which was to move somewhere else in the world and live there freely. And I was able to do that. Unfortunately, it was, well, not unfortunately, things happen because they're meant to happen, but it was 2020. And so I don't know many Canadians who in the summer of 2020 were looking to leave outside of Canada. I was one not looking to leave outside of Canada. Don't even think the option was there. So I moved to BC on the West Coast. So technically I'm still damsel in the 6. It's just the 604, not the 416. So, semantics there. But that's where that brought me. And so to be able to live somewhere else in the world, and then I didn't end there. After a year of living in BC, I moved to Mexico, and that was really cool to buy a one-way ticket and just say, let's see where it takes me. And that was, like I said, fulfilling a dream to just be able to pick up and go and live wherever I wanted to. And that was fine. And so 7 months later, I'm back here and in BC. So I moved back a couple months ago and it's great. I love it. So what I've been up to, conquering some goals. Oh, I almost forgot one that was really big and ties into my career update as well. I had always wanted to accomplish my PMP ever since graduating from university. And so 2020, also in 2020, just head down focused, having removed the distractions out of my life because social scene was not happening. I just hunkered down, studied, passed it, and that was really exciting for me because that was one of those goals, as I mentioned, on my vision board that I knew that I would always look at it and want it and kind of feel like I can't get to my next level without it. Not that I'm saying education defines you, it doesn't, but for me, it was a personal goal. And that's the highest that in my industry and field of accreditation that you can get. And so that was really exciting for me. So that's kind of where I was and what I've been doing for the past couple of years. Um, as far as where I'm at now, yeah, I'm chilling over here in BC. I'm excited for what's to come. I'm still the same company, but I have leveled up into more of a leadership position. So I oversee the team, and I'm also responsible for building the workflow of how my team works with other teams in the company. So that's really exciting and really big stuff. And yeah, I'm really much just that's really it. Like I really keep it much more on the I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I'm done. I'm good. That was it. That was really it. I don't really have anything else to add, I don't think. But yeah, so that's me.
I have
Oh, you're on mute.
questions.
Oh, no, you're not on mute. It just cut out for me. You have questions.
Oh, yes, I
Go
have
ahead.
questions. Why did you choose BC?
Oh, yeah. So it's weird. It's one of those things where it was a feeling. I typically, when I travel, and I've been to many places in the world that I thought I would live or feel like I'd want to live when I got there, And then I'd get there, and by the end of it, I've appreciated my time, but I'm looking forward to coming home. BC was that place where I came in the summer and I kind of had an inkling that I would like it here. But like I said, I've had that feeling before many times. And by the time I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. When I was leaving, I felt like I was leaving my home. And that's when I knew. And that feeling happened in August. By October, I was moved here, because that's one thing about me. When my mind is made up, things are happening and they just happen. So it was a feeling. It was a feeling, and I go off of that mostly. Well, thoughtfully off of that. It's worked out well for me. So it was just a feeling, really.
I love
Yeah.
that for you. I feel like BC is like a good fit for you for sure.
Thanks. Thanks. My sister said that too before there was even like a thought of, like, she didn't know that I was thinking in my head I want to live somewhere else, because that's another thing is I tend I try for the most part to keep bigger decisions under wraps until I make the decision, just because outside influence, I am easily influenced. So I do have to protect my peace and my goals and my thoughts, because my brain just thinks of all these scenarios. And so I try to protect it for as long as I can until I know I want to do it. And then I share. And she had made a comment earlier in the summer about, I see you living in BC. And at the time, I thought I would be living in Montreal, which was funny, but I hadn't shared that yet because I didn't, want, like I said, share it until I knew it was happening. And then I ended up in BC like the next month or 2 months later. Wow. And I was like, yeah, I could see myself here.
Amazing. I have two more questions.
Yeah.
How long were you in Mexico and what was that like?
Yeah. So I got there October 1st and I stayed out there up until Christmas. So I loved it. I started out in the more touristy area, not necessarily because I wanted to, but I had people who were going to be there at the same time. My old roommate at the time, who modeled our clothes at one point when we were selling Damsel, throwback to Damsel merchandise. So she was going to be there as well with our other friend. And so we lined it up in a way where our times would overlap. So I started out in one state, which is more the touristy Quintana Roo state. And then from there, I traveled on to 4 different states. I spent a month in Mexico City, a month in Oaxaca, which was just amazing. I would recommend that to anyone. And how I did that was actually really fun. I used a program called Selena. Well, I didn't use that, but I stayed. Nice. Yeah, I stayed with Selena. At the time, I do got to say, I lucked out. They had just launched this program for the co-working membership program. So what I paid was less than my downtown Vancouver rate that I was paying. Okay. And so like I said, I gave up my place. I didn't have a place, didn't have a home. I turned in my lease and I just moved to Mexico and I was living on the Selena program membership. And yeah, so that was fun. And I met so many people who did the same thing I did. So we met in one place and then we traveled together all the way up until the end. Don't know how that happened. It just did. They were also from Toronto, actually. So I'm going to shout out Sarah and Ron. They were amazing. This really cool couple that I met on Isla Mujeres. So I didn't meet them when I was staying in Playa del Carmen, but I met them in Isla Mujeres. And that was mid-October. And then we were traveling up until Christmas together. So that was fun.
That's awesome. I actually didn't know that you were staying with Selena. I've had my eye on Selena and their competitor is Outsite. Two very similar, like, geared to digital nomads. You've got your co-working space, your co-living space. So I'm definitely going to have some questions for you after the show.
Yes, I got the full experience at several of the locations. So we should connect on that.
Amazing. And my last question is, so it's PMP that you were certified in, right?
Correct.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations, because I remember how many times you mentioned that that meant so much to you. You really wanted it. You were trying to figure out how to make it happen. So congratulations. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's wow. See, I don't even remember that, but I do remember being in Toronto, setting the goal. And then a month later, the goal went back on the back burner is the word you say. So that was, something that every year it was the same goal. And that was so frustrating to me that I hadn't progressed past it. So really appreciate that. And I'm so happy to get it out of the way and that's just like done. Like
I can
very happy about
imagine.
that.
My question was going to be, do you have any advice for people who want to take their PMP? By the way, maybe we should define the acronym.
Yes, PMP stands for Project Management Professional. I actually created a wiki page over my experience with suggestions. So I'd also love to share that. So if anyone wants to, we'll figure out a way to link that down below. But my experience is to tell your friend, my like blanket tip, tell your friends and family you're studying for this, because that is the biggest distraction and you cannot have it both ways. It's the type of exam that it's a lot. Like it's mentally a lot. It's a lot of information to digest. And so the biggest distraction, as I mentioned before, was trying to keep up with my same routine and study. And it was most effective for me when I was in isolation in BC in a place where I didn't know anyone. That was great. So definitely define your schedule, but also outwardly share that with people around you that you typically would work with day to day. As I got closer to taking my test, I shared it with my employment. At first, I was nervous and to share that because I was like, what if I failed? I just told all these people that I'm writing a test and I failed. Like that ends up being one of those concerns that generally people don't want to share those big goals. However, it is so exhausting that you need that support in your life. So that's something that I'm just saying, you know what? Just it's okay. Like failing is okay. Just share it. That's what I needed to do to get through it. So that's one of my big tips is use your support system. And then as well, experience matters. It does. I often hear and get advice from people who are just getting into the industry, wanting to take the test. I will never knock anyone to do it. I will say studying for the test became so much more easier when I could relate to what the content was. So that is what allowed me to pass the test in my first, okay, I'm gonna do a little self-brag here. There's 5 areas and I scored 4 above target. So the highest level you can score is above target. I scored 4 out of 5 and I only studied for 45 days. Okay, now I'm bragging. But I kind of like, was like, okay, you're gonna ask me. So, you know, I had really good results on the test, but I will say, I know that I wrote it and understood what I was writing because of the fact of my experience and the questions that they ask you. They're not going to be something you can memorize out of a textbook. They're questioning you based on your experience. What is the best thing to do? All of them are right, but based on the scenario, what would be the first action that you do? So it is hard, but when you have more experience in it, it makes it a little bit more easier. So that's my advice is don't feel pressured to do it. I think when I wrote it actually was the perfect time to write it and that I wouldn't have done so well a couple of years ago. So timing is everything and just give yourself space to get to know what it's like to project manage. And then when you're there to put focus to it, it is a full-time life, like it's a life commitment in that moment. So bring your friends and family into the fold. I skipped Christmas that year because there was just no way I could mentally be nice. Like I didn't even to be social with all that in my brain was like next to not possible. So I just knew I needed to isolate myself. And so those are a couple of tips I'll give you. Hopefully that's helpful. And also I'll share my wiki, which has a lot more actual tangible takeaways for materials and stuff like that. So yeah.
Amazing. I'm sure that information is going to be super helpful for all the aspiring PMPs out there.
I hope so. And good luck. Good luck. Let's build the PMP community.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on to Fix Your Life.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so for today's Fix Your Life topic, I want to talk about the difference between navigating our 30s versus navigating our 20s. When we were doing D6, the podcast originally, we were in our late 20s. Now we are in our early 30s. And obviously things have changed. So I feel like for me, what I've heard most people say is like, once you get into your 30s, like you are just like the most confident person ever. Like your life changes, everything is great. Life just, you're not insecure anymore. You don't deal with anyone's like BS anymore. What do you think about that? Do you feel like anything has like shifted drastically from your 20s and 30s?
I think so. Yeah, I feel different. I do. I feel like I have more focus. I think before um wanting to try everything or be a part, or maybe like, especially when it came to work, employment, you're like, yeah, I think I want to try that. I think I want to do that. And you kind of want to dabble in it all. And I do find now I'm in a point in my life where I know that's what I want to do versus that's not what I want to do. Um, the other thing is experience, I think, is so important. I would say I'm happy to live the life that I live because if I, like I mentioned earlier, if I want to do something, I'm just going to do it. And so with that, it allows me to see what I like and what I don't like. And I think that also has built confidence. So I think there's also the part of experiencing and living in your 20s. By the time you get to your 30s, you've kind of refined your likes a bit more. And so to me, that gives me confidence because I've done the other thing and I know, actually, no, this is more my thing. Or I've done the people pleasing thing, and where did that get me? Nah, I think I just want to go back to the real confident me who was a lot more effective. So I think there was a key to that. It's the experience part, and then being able to reflect back on the way the outcome was when you were in different situations, and now you're here again. Because I do find life is a circle, and you'll find yourself in similar situations. So it's ideally looking at it, that situation, and reflecting on when I was here before, what worked and what didn't work, and building on what worked to approach it differently. So I would say, yeah, absolutely. I do feel different in my 30s, and that's kind of what I've seen so far. Yeah. What do you think
Interesting.
about that? Yeah.
I think about this a lot, and I kind of feel like the odd one out here because I don't feel like I feel more confident. Like, I definitely agree with what you said in the sense that, like, you've tried a lot of things and you know what's not for you, and like, you know what is for you. I agree that I've tried a lot of things. I know what's not for me, but that just means I've X'd them off my list, and now I'm entertaining new things. Like, oh, maybe I want to dabble in becoming a certified financial advisor now that I like to do this. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm just like still still hesitating on some things that I feel like I should be more certain about. And like I know a lot of people also say like, once you're in 30s, you get like, a lot more comfortable with like your looks and things like that. I'm like, I feel like I still have a lot of the same insecurities that I did in my 20s. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm doing my 30s wrong. I don't know what's happening.
No, I don't think so at all. I'd say, okay, usually when I hear the saying, I think of it as like 30s is almost like the cups of like the beginning of your life. Like I
Mm.
think of it like 20s is your throwaway, like people are like burn the 20s. 30s is when you like start to become. And then 40s, if anything, is where I hear more of that like confidence building, like you really don't care what other people think of you. 50 and above, you definitely don't care what people think about you. So I don't think you're doing it like we just touched 30s, girl. Like we
It's
like if we
true.
really keep it real, like yes, we're in our 30s. I love being in my 30s, but there's still so much 30s to go. And you know, yeah, yeah. So that's my thought there.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's also maybe an exception for me, and maybe you can relate, is I don't think we were normal 20-year-olds, like in our 20s. Like I feel
Oh, yeah.
we were already like pretty accomplished and like very ambitious and doing a lot of the things. And I feel like we also knew what we were good at. Yes, we dabbled in like different things here and there, but like I feel like you and I, like we were ahead of the game a little bit. At least that's what I think for me personally. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair comment. I do generally I've always in many of my circles felt like the leader of the pack, the one who's more responsible, more organized. When I didn't feel like that, people told me that all the time. Oh, Keisha, you'll plan it. Oh, you like you'll take care of it. Keisha's on it. So I would say we've always been older souls in that sense. So
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. And so our experience will be different from someone's who maybe hasn't felt that way. So that's a very good point as well. Um, but I do feel more refined, I would say. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm there yet. I definitely am not saying I'm there yet, but I feel the refinement.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
that. One thing I will say though is I definitely feel myself getting tired now and slowing down. Like while I am, looking into new things to dabble in, like I realize that, when opportunities come up, I'm being a lot more intentional with what I say yes to and what I take on,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like because we started running so early in like our 20s, I'm just like, oh no, 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 no. I don't have the stamina to do all of the things anymore.
Okay, I'm happy you said that. The intention with either whether it's events or engagements, but even with friends and the people you connect with, that for me was also something that changed for me in my 30s. And also I moved, and so you no longer had the social scene there to be a part of that engagement. It really was based on conversation, which means we have to find relatable topics that are meaningful, and that was important to me to invest even more time than I did before I left with people for that with people. And so that was a change for me for sure. And thinking less about myself and my needs and being busy and trying to make more time for friends and friendship and family. That I think was huge for me over the past couple years. And so happened to be in my 30s. So I'm gonna assume there's a correlation there, but intention really is the common word there because it was more intentional. It was yeah, spending more thoughtful time with people and loved ones and making it impactful and worth something.
Yeah, I totally agree. Community, but also just like rest for me too. Like, I think before, and still now sometimes, but before I was definitely like, I felt guilty with resting. I felt guilty with like not doing things. And I felt like I needed to take on everything. But now, especially over like the pandemic, I feel like a lot of content creators have really focused on like the importance of rest, and rest is resistance. You don't need to be ashamed about resting and things like that. I feel like I've internalized a lot of that now, and that's what's making me slow down and feel more so okay with slowing down and embracing the fact that I'm tired.
Yes, rest. I'm with you on the rest piece. And I just equated that to being in on the West Coast because they're a lot more chill here. So for
Mm.
anyone who's curious, so we're always talking about the Toronto experience. If you haven't been to BC, and I felt like when I came over here, quite a few people in my circle were like, "What's it like in BC?" And some had been, and it's fine. I know Dany, you've been in BC a couple times, but to live here in BC, the lifestyle's a lot slower.
Mm.
People take their time, people are more available. I felt like in Toronto, if you want to make a plan, you better book me out a couple weeks in advance. In BC, people are available. What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow? All right, let's do something. And it's because they don't do that often. And they're what they value for spending quality time is going on hikes, going to parks, being outdoors, and just doing really chill things. So I naturally do have a lot more time to rest and relax because that's like the way of life here. And I absolutely love it. So, yes, if that's also equated to 30s, it's definitely happening for me. I just associated it to where I'm living now, West Coast, chill vibes.
I love it. Sounds
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm curious to know if anyone else is feeling that. I mean, if you are, send us a note, right? Can anyone relate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Cool. Shall we move on to our inspiration session?
Yeah, is that it? We're here already, huh? Okay. Well, yeah, so typically by the end of this, we share meaningful inspiration. Um, I'm just gonna do a little bit of a pre before I say this in the sense of when Danny and I connected a couple weeks ago about this episode and what we'd like to chat about. We were catching up like we typically do, and I had already written this inspiration comment. And when she was talking about the segment in itself, she basically said this in different words. And so that made it so much more special because previously it'd be something I'd prepare and she'd hear it live. But the fact that we were on the same page about this statement tells me that it's very relatable, at least to us right now, but I'm sure other people will find it relatable as well. So, and it really ties into our Fix Your Life segment and growth in 30. So this is the statement. you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, really. So do what brings you the most joy. And ideally, the outcome of that is love, peace, and fulfillment. So, what that means is just do you, boo, because at the end of the day, it's you who has to follow through with the decisions and the life choices that you make. And people pleasing is a losing path. It really is. And so that's something where I kind of touched on where I've done all the different things where what works and what doesn't work. And ultimately, where I'm at in life is I'm just making that choice to take the risk that just feels good inside. And I'm just going to do. And not to speak for you, Dany, but you mentioned with, not caring what people think on social media and just doing you. And to me, I kind of feel like that wraps up that quite well as well, that statement. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that. So I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the inspiration for all of us is just to like encourage ourselves, to give ourselves grace. We don't need to continuously to try to change too much about ourselves. It's okay to like, accept ourselves and the way that we are. I remember one of like the recurring themes when we were doing the show in the past is like, I really wanted to be a morning person. I was like, I don't know, I felt like a failure because I couldn't wake up early and be a part of the 5 a.m. club. I was always like, I really want to, but as I'm getting older and giving myself more grace, like I realized my body's not wired that way, and that's totally okay. So like, it's okay to accept that everyone is not the same. Everyone doesn't have to be. And, just going after those like self-growth goals is great, but like do it within reason. You don't need to change all the things. If climbing the corporate ladder doesn't resonate with you once you've reached a certain point in your career, like that's totally okay too. Just giving ourselves grace to accept ourselves and the way that things are.
I love that. Yes, that's the important piece there. The outcome should be joy, peace, and fulfillment. So that's what you really want to target. And that will only come within yourself. And so reflect on what choice it is that will give you that and let that be the measure.
Love it. That was perfect.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thanks everyone for joining us.
We have to talk about what's next.
Yes, we do have to talk about what's next. Thank you.
Man. Why don't you tell the people, Neesh, what's next? And also how can they, stay up to date with you if that's what you want to share?
Yeah. So what's next for me? Right now, I am working on refining even more goals. Hopefully, if all goes well towards the end of the year, I will have a speaking engagement in Nashville. I currently do a couple of them internally at my company, and that's been really fun. And so to take that outwardly would be awesome. So don't have that to share yet, but I will happily share that. And what's next? Or to keep in touch with me? That's a great question. Maybe Twitter. Yeah, you can. By the way, I took Dany's advice on one of the episodes, which is to, I think you said to like delete it or clear up your Twitter or whatever. Anyways, I had mine since 2009, and I did not want to know what 19-year-old Neesh was saying in these streets. So I completely wiped my Twitter clean. So same handle though. This is Neesh at Twitter. You can follow me there. I'm not overly active on it, but maybe I can be. I'll definitely promote this episode. So I'd say that's probably the best way to keep in touch with me right now. Yeah. How about yourself?
Amazing. What's next for me? I'm really enjoying the money content. I'm really enjoying like learning about investing, learning how to like better manage my money and my finances, and just like inviting my community along the journey with me. So if folks want to follow me, they can do so at Danica S. Nelson on Instagram and Twitter. I'm getting into TikTok now, and my handle, I thought it would be like fun and experimental, is Rich Auntie Loading. Keep an eye on that. That's going to be my new brand, Rich Auntie Loading.
Wait, explain that to me.
Rich Auntie Loading. So,
oh, okay, I think I get it. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, it's just in case people don't like.
Yeah.
I want to be a rich auntie. I want to learn how to better manage my money, make it work for me. And loading, I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. So as I learn, I want to invite the community along so we can all like learn and slay our finances together.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Rich Auntie Loading. Love it. Yes. Unique.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really hoping to like bring that brand to life, but also give myself grace and take my time because I don't want to be up until, 1 a.m. every day working on that. So yeah, I think that's what's next for me. Really leaning into like this money content and also just like lifestyle and travel content. Like traveling, as we know, is my love. So hoping to do a lot more of that and maybe checking out a Selena in the near future, depending on what Neesh tells me. Really excited.
Yes. Oh, I'd love to talk about that. Yeah. And yeah, if anyone ever wants to talk about PMP or anything that we've mentioned, if you send me a DM on Twitter, I'll happily set something up to connect with you on. So yeah, that's it, right? Was there anything else before
I
I
think that's I
close
think
this
that's
down?
it. This has been great. Like I hope if you made it to this long, thank you. If you were an OG, definitely thank you for riding with us. If you have no idea who we are and why you're watching us right now, we appreciate you for also listening to us now. Yeah, we really appreciate everything.
Yes. And this was fun. It was fun to touch base 3 years later, put something out there. And yeah, I'm excited to see what's next.
Amazing. Thank you everyone for watching and listening.
All right. Goodbye.